Welcome to Ethical Point. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating explainer. We are taking a 2,500-year-old Jain philosophy and translating it into a modern, high-scoring toolkit for you, the aspiring civil servant. If you're prepping for your exams, or honestly, if you're just passionate about where ancient wisdom meets modern public service, you are absolutely in the right place. Let's just jump right into it.
Now look at this absolute beast of a question from UPSC General Studies Paper 4. The skeptic in you is probably looking at this and thinking, okay, how on earth can ancient asceticism possibly solve modern administrative friction, or say the global climate crisis? And you know what? That is a totally fair challenge. How does a philosophy built around extreme spiritual liberation actually help a civil servant dealing with a desk stacked high with complex policy files? Well, consider me your mentor today, because I'm going to show you exactly how it all connects.
All right, here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the GS4 Ethics Challenge, break down Mahavir's core philosophical toolkit, explore sustainability and circular economies, apply the Triratna in public administration, look at minimalism and daily habits, and finally, build out that UPSC mains answer blueprint.
So, jumping right into Section 1, the GS4 Ethics Challenge.
Okay, let's start with the absolute foundation, which is Ahimsa, or nonviolence. Let's do a quick layman's translation pause right here, because when we hear nonviolence, we usually just think about physical peace, right? Like not hitting someone or not going to war. But Mahavir's Ahimsa is so much deeper than that. It is the supreme principle because it demands intense mental and verbal discipline. It means actively avoiding causing injury through your thoughts and your speech and extending that fundamental respect to all living beings, right down to plants and microorganisms. For a civil servant today, this is literally the root of total empathy in public service.
Moving on to Section 2, Mahavir's core philosophical toolkit.
So, what else is in this toolkit beyond Ahimsa? Let's do a rapid-fire breakdown of the Pancha Mahavrata, the Five Great Vows. Next up, we have Satya and Asteya. Satya is truthfulness, being totally honest in your speech and thought, provided that truth doesn't cause unnecessary harm to someone else. And Asteya translates to non-stealing. But this means not taking absolutely anything that isn't explicitly given to you. So here's the crucial takeaway. When you combine Satya and Asteya in a modern context, you get the absolute bedrock of ethical transparency. In public administration, this is your ultimate shield against corruption, bribery, and unfair exploitation.
Now we've got aparigraha and brahmacharya. Aparigraha means non-possession, intentionally limiting your material wealth to avoid greed and really embracing a simple life. Brahmacharya is chastity, or basically self-restraint over your sensual desires to promote a highly disciplined mind. Now put that in today's terms. These are the ultimate antidotes to modern consumerism, lifestyle inflation, and that constant material anxiety that plagues so much of our society right now.
But beyond just the vows, Mahavir gave us these incredible philosophical doctrines, primarily Anekantavada and Syadvada. Let's pause and translate this into plain English, because it's a game changer. Anekantavada is the doctrine of many-sided reality. It suggests that reality is incredibly complex and multifaceted. That means no single human perspective can ever claim the absolute 100% truth. And Syadvada goes hand in hand with this, teaching that statements are only true in a very particular context. Together, these form the ultimate framework for intellectual humility. They essentially prove that you don't know everything, and neither does anyone else. That realization literally forces us to be tolerant of different viewpoints.
What's truly fascinating here is how we can directly anchor this highly abstract philosophy to completely realistic administrative dilemmas. Think about it. When society is highly polarized, Anekantavada promotes democratic pluralism and peaceful coexistence through open dialogue. When we face severe resource depletion, aparigraha promotes a responsible economy and minimalism. And when you're dealing with systemic corruption, Asteya steps in to champion ethical governance and social justice. It is a one-to-one mapping.
Now on to Section 3, Sustainability and Circular Economies. If you're still playing the skeptic, you're probably asking, okay, sure, that covers human society, but how do these principles apply to something as massive as the global climate crisis? Well, it applies beautifully. There is an ancient Jain phrase, Parasparo Bagraho Jivanam, which translates to all life is bound together by mutual support. This ancient ecology perfectly mirrors our very best modern conservation efforts. When we talk about protecting endangered ecosystems or biodiversity today, we are effectively practicing this exact ancient principle. Nonviolence toward all life forms aligns seamlessly with global environmental sustainability.
And this brilliantly illustrates our modern economic friction. Right now, we're completely trapped in linear consumerism, which is driven by endless accumulation and massive resource depletion. But by applying apagraha, non-possession, we shift entirely to circular economies. We move toward the sustainable use of existing resources, equitable distribution, and mindful living. It is a complete societal shift from greed back to basic need. And doing that actually opens up resources for the underprivileged, which actively fosters social justice.
Let's look at Section 4, Triratna in Public Administration.
Let's move from the macroeconomy directly into governance. How do these teachings actually guide the everyday decision-making for a civil servant sitting in office today? This brings us to the Triratna, the three jewels: Samyak Darshana, which is right faith; Samyak Jnana, right knowledge; and Samyak Charitra, right conduct. I need you to understand, this is not just a spiritual checklist. For a public administrator, this is the ultimate ethical framework. You need the right belief in constitutional values, you need the right factual knowledge to draft a policy, and you need the right moral conduct to actually execute it fairly. It is a literal formula for a balanced and compassionate existence in public life.
Because out in the real world, administrators are constantly battling this massive modern trust deficit. Citizens are just exhausted by corruption, exploitation, and a total lack of accountability. But ethical governance, when it's deeply rooted in the principles of satya, or truth, and asteya, or non-stealing, naturally creates transparency and integrity. By actively applying those specific values, a civil servant directly reduces that trust deficit between everyday citizens and massive government institutions.
That brings us to Section 5, Minimalism and Daily Habits.
Let's pivot away from macro governance down to micro applications. How do we take this huge global perspective on sustainability and bring it right down into our daily habits? To fulfill your specific exam requirements, here are 5 practical, actionable ways to integrate aparigraha into your daily life and household waste reduction. First, always prioritize need over greed in your purchasing. Second, maximize the sustainable use of the existing resources you already have. Third, actively reduce your ecological footprint, think energy and water. Fourth, strictly limit the excessive accumulation of consumer goods. And fifth, actively embrace circular economy practices right in your own home, like composting and recycling. That personal minimalism directly supports those broader global climate change efforts.
All right, finally, Section 6, the UPSC Mains Answer Blueprint.
Now for the ultimate value add. How do you translate all of this fascinating theory into a high-scoring 10-marker on exam day? Here is an exact structural roadmap for your answer. Step 1. Your introduction. You must define Mahavira's core teachings clearly. List the Triratna and the Pancha Mahavirta. Step 2. The body of your answer. This is where you apply the theory to modern crises. Use Anekantavada as your framework for social peace and public policy debates, and position aparigraha as your solution for climate change and sustainable corporate governance. Step 3. Your conclusion. You need to firmly state that external peace in society is simply a direct reflection of internal discipline. And that leads us to our way forward for your essay. Mahavir's philosophy emphatically proves that a truly just and sustainable global order doesn't actually start with massive top-down international treaties. It starts from the bottom up, with individual self-restraint and compassion. Mental well-being, reduced material anxiety, and strict self-discipline. Those are the true bedrock of lasting societal harmony. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. The very next time you find yourself stuck in a highly polarized debate, whether that's arguing at the family dinner table or trying to resolve a conflict in a professional setting, how will you step back and apply the intellectual humility of Anekantavada to find a shared truth? Think about it. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep exploring the profound intersections of ancient ethics and modern public service. See you next time.